we'll talk, is you're running this right here.
Just wait for everybody else to take up the space that they need and then like Oxford wanted it and then to be the cameras. Right, I can do it. How's it going? As I'm out the door, I was like, okay.
Yeah, you've got to grab your lunch when you can.
Yeah. So if you think of it,
TV itself is working, right? You know,
It's more big Ben is what's going on. So, yeah, electric companies use that. Trust me. Are we going to get something? Either one, I mean, we get tested. I don't know if I have a picture of sound right now, because I saw send text messages and I'm getting.
my drive for
I don't know.
It looked like it was. I know.
At first you're like, oh, it's not so bad. And it takes. And I was going to show them it, yeah. And starting my home Tennessee, I could tell that you were starting to get there.
Not a
Totally
ton.
really different.
I've got 2 hours for only 2 of the 5, 6 are very wrong.
Well, the power of and I was not my wife is actually
T-Mobile and Verizon.
so she's trying to
Yeah, like you said, 8
she's trying to
main entrance.
they had to do both
I can just walk in the door.
Charlotte, she lined up in Charlotte, saying, you know, right out. She was like, oh, yeah. But I was very powerful. Yeah, sure does.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Ready? Everybody got good sound right now? Well, thank you all for joining us. We just wanted to hold a quick briefing today to discuss about the city's preparations for the expected severe weather and share some safety reminders from our perspective. The current situation as it stands right now, as you all know, you've all been following the weather up in the signature story in town for the last 24 hours, is Knoxville's under a flood watch at least until early Friday afternoon. Right now we're in a bit of a transition between the first rain system and the remnants of Hurricane Helene, which we expect to slide into our area this evening and into tomorrow morning. Looking at potentially 2 to 3 more inches of rain as well as strong winds, but we know that the weather can obviously be unpredictable and subject to change. So could see more rain, could see less, but we know that's what the weather system is calling for right now. We expect to have another weather briefing from the National Weather Service shortly. And if any significant changes happen or that we learn of any significant changes to the weather system, we'll be sure to pass those along. First and foremost, I want to say our department KFD and the city as a whole is actively and aggressively monitoring this weather system and the potential impacts in the community. Thankfully, right now, we're not aware of any significant impacts within the community. However, we are in the advanced planning stages, preparing our staff and resources in the event they are needed to be able to respond to any needs as they emerge in the community. This afternoon, we have additional briefings scheduled. National Weather Service briefing is happening right now. In addition to that, we'll have additional briefings with city and county staff, service providers, Knoxville, Knox County, emergency management. The Emergency Operations Center will be operational, plans to be operational in order to quickly respond to any issues that do emerge in the community. Our biggest concern when looking at the weather briefing we're seeing right now, I'm sure, is similar to what you all are seeing on your ends with the predicted weather, is the strong possibility of flash flooding, and more importantly, probably is the strong winds, the damaging winds, calling in winds that could exceed 50 miles per hour overnight into Friday morning. So that obviously has the potential to down trees, power lines, and cause some damage to homes and businesses. So we strongly encourage, we want to get in front of this and want to strongly encourage, get out in front of some of these, the public safety reminders we have. As this, we want to encourage residents to continue to monitor the system as it develops and prepare accordingly. Have multiple ways to receive emergency weather updates. Make sure your devices are well charged and that you have a charging device with you if you're traveling. And please, 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 we cannot emphasize this enough. Use extreme caution when you're on the roads. Pay attention and put away any distractions. Look out for standing water and don't ever attempt to drive through floodwaters, and cannot emphasize this enough. If you encounter floodwaters, please turn around, don't drown. And if you have anything outside that could be blown away or damaged, consider bringing it inside or strongly securing it. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Assistant Chief, KFD Assistant Chief Mark Wilbanks to talk about what KFD is preparing for on their end.
Good afternoon. So the Knoxville Fire Department we have increased our posture on our response plans. We have a couple of quick response vehicles that we will start staffing up this evening, which means instead of putting the bigger fire trucks out on the road, we'll be using some of our quick response vehicles, especially for those rapid operations and also for some emergency medical calls. Secondly, our swift water team's on standby, and they are ready to be called in as a moment notice. We also have some folks that are on shift right now that are on our swift water team. So if anything started to pick up, we would be able to quickly respond to it. Our staffing is pretty much at normal levels right now. Potentially we could increase our staffing some tomorrow if we need to. One of the biggest things that we want to talk about is not driving past those barriers, not driving into standing water. As Scott mentioned before, turn around, don't drown. One of the biggest things that we see when we start having localized flooding is vehicles that get stuck in the water, and we have to effect some type of rescue. We would really like to be able to avoid doing that, so we'd like to caution people to stay away from that. Second thing I briefly want to talk about is generator safety. If you do have a power outage and you're using a generator, make sure, number one, that your generator is connected properly and it is a safe generator. Number two, when you refuel your generator, please make sure that you allow it time to cool down before you add additional gasoline or diesel fuel to it. That eliminates the potential for fire. And lastly, we don't ever want to operate a generator inside of a home or inside of a garage. Make sure those are outside, away from your air conditioning units, fresh air intakes, and things like that. That's all I have from the Knoxville Fire Department right now, and I want to turn the meeting over to Kristen Farley, our City Communications Director.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. I just want to give you a quick update. Outside of police and fire, which of course are our first responders here in the city, there are some other city departments busy taking precautions right now. Our public service crews are out right now as we speak, checking all of the storm drains throughout the city, trying to clear them, get debris or any leaves out of the storm drains to help increase flow if needed. Also, we have some overnight crews that will be staffed and ready to come in. We're talking about our crews that would deal with downed trees throughout the city if need be throughout the evening. Coming to our transportation and engineering department, you'll start seeing some of the barricades go up, actually just being staged near some of the intersections right now that we know are problem areas throughout the city. That way we have our tools and supplies on the scene if needed overnight, if there are high water or if there is high water. Also, we want to let you know this is kind of something that many people may not realize. Our traffic engineering department is actually busy right now building additional traffic light structures, the ones that hang from the wires. So in case we do have high winds and lots of power outages and traffic lights down, they can easily be replaced tomorrow. So they are busy working on that. And then the only other important update really from the city is 311. We are bringing in our call center staffers a little bit early in the morning, anticipating some additional calls. They will be standing ready to connect anyone with services if need be throughout the night and early in the morning tomorrow. Outside of that, again, we really just collectively want to drive home the fact that we're doing this out of a precaution. We want to be prepared. We want the people of Knoxville to be prepared as well. If you can stay home, if the storm picks up overnight, please do so and stay off the streets. Again, as Scott said, make sure you charge your devices and also have multiple ways to get those weather alerts throughout the night. We, the three of us, as well as other city staffers, will help keep social media channels updated throughout the night and into tomorrow, and we'll push out the most important information as soon as we can. We do have time for a few brief questions if anyone has any.
Yeah, I have a question. The storm is slated to hit landfall at around 8 o'clock tonight. When are we going to see an increase in the rain and the wind that we're so much anticipating?
According to the last briefing from the National Weather Service, we could experience any of this weather system into tonight all the way into tomorrow morning. It looks like the worst of it is going to be anytime overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning is when we're going to experience the worst of it. We expect that that's when we're going to be in potentially a storm response mode versus hopefully by early afternoon we've weathered the worst of it, and then at that point we're getting a return to some normalcy or maybe dealing with the aftermath of the weather.
Are there additional services being offered for unhoused community members, or what's the situation like there?
At this time, I don't have any definitive answers to that. You might want to reach out to the Joint Office of Housing Stability, or I can reach out to Aaron Reed and circle back with you and get you some answers.
Chief Wilbanks, with the dry conditions that we've had this whole summer, it seems like, and now we're in a situation with the rain, and with this wind coming through, you're going to see power lines coming down. Is this a big concern for you with the powers coming down and maybe hitting some of this brush? It's still, even though it's wet, it's still very dry and it could burn quickly. I mean, is this a concern? And if it's a concern, what are you doing to be prepared for something like that?
You know, anytime a power line comes down, it is a concern because not only can they cause issues with people's homes, start fires in homes, they can start fire and brush and different things like that. As far as it being dry, we've had a little bit of rain, so hopefully that's going to help the situation some. It's our typical response. Once we determine that a power line's down and it's energized and not safe, we'll make sure that the area is cordoned off and safe until the utilities district can get the power turned off. We always work very closely with KUB on those situations.
And I know every call that you all respond to, this is for either one of you, is important, but you know, when severe weather comes through, do you kind of prioritize calls a little differently? How does something like that work out?
You know, that's a great question. We do work on a priority basis just about all the time in the fire department. So sometimes we have to take a closer look at those calls and see if we actually need to send a fire truck on it, or can we send one of our quick response vehicles on it, or can that call be held for a brief period of time until we can get an appropriate unit available to respond to it. So yes, we do take a little bit harder look at those calls. We will have somebody in the dispatch center this evening, and they will help with determining what exactly we need to go out on, or if it's something we can hold for a few minutes, or if we can cancel the call altogether. That's very unlikely that we would cancel it. I can tell you that during the last snowstorm, we didn't miss a single call citywide, as a matter of fact countywide, because we were able to do something just like that and prioritize calls.
I would add, I don't have much to add from what Assistant Chief Wilbanks added, but I would add that that's part of the purpose of the EOC, as well as our own Tactical Operations Center that we have set up here. We have a KFD representative, and that is call management, right? Because we're using all of our resources, getting the resources we need as quickly as we can to deal with the actual storm system, the weather event we're dealing with, while also managing the calls for service. So that's the purpose of when we pull together these emergency operations center, as well as our own Tactical Operations Center, is call management.
You guys mentioned you're working closely with KUB. Do we know of any precautions that they may be taking in order to prepare for the storm?
I would refer you to KUB. I know, I have full confidence in KUB. I know, the last big storm we had, where we had significant at one point power outages. You saw how quickly they got almost full power restored in the city. So I would refer you to them in terms of any precautions they're taking. But we have full confidence in that they'll be ready and available to support their customers. Anything else? Appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm heading back to see her now.
You're done, throw it on my desk.
Okay.
There's a bunch of other stuff on here. Sure.
I'll see you back there.
I'm sick of having to rely on you guys.
Yeah, that won't be fun.
You gotta try it now, gotta get everyone, I gotta get Sean trained.